for registration of your plates, so, or of your paper for screen printing, so I'm sorry, for registration of your screen printing paper, you want to make sure to get your paper cut down to pretty much the same size. You can tear it or you can cut it on the paper cutter or with a razor knife, whatever you want to do. It's kind of a question of aesthetics and the purpose of your sort of form and content for your print. But you want to make sure that you get your paper all the same size. That's an important first step. There's two different methods that we'll use for registration. One of them is the card method, where we'll have some cards taped down to the press bed in 4 different places, so we can just slide our paper right into where it goes. So that might be one solution for you. The other solution that's a little bit more foolproof to make sure you have a really precise registration is what we call the punch registration system. So once you get your paper cut, if you're going to do that, you just want to take all of your pieces of paper and as many of them as you can, and just kind of, again, mark about where you want your paper to be. And so I like to use a piece of tape for that. So just to make sure that they're all getting punched in about the same spot, you can go ahead and just put a piece of tape down. It helps kind of guide where that is, and then you just punch it, right? So we're gonna put 3 holes in the piece of paper, and we'll end up trimming that off when this is all over, right? So if you can't do your whole stack of paper all at once, that's okay. You can just kind of, again, get it in pretty much the same spot and 3-hole punch it. So now we're going to have these little holes in our paper that we'll be able to, don't look at that one, that one's got extra holes in it. Then we'll have these 3 holes that we'll be able to kind of line with these 3-hole punch pins that I have, and they'll be able to kind of keep it in the same spot at all times. Okay, you've put in a lot of hard work. You're ready to print now, and so I'm going to walk you through the stages of serigraphy printing and how to print a screen. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set up your paper and your screen for registration. And so I have my screen all set here. That's that's been exposed. I went ahead and I went in and blocked out all the pinholes on this side. I didn't block them out on this side just to show you the difference between a screen that we've taken the time to block them out and where you haven't, so we can see what happens with that. I have 2 colors here, so what I want to do is I'm just going to want to go ahead and clamp this, and I can turn my screen, I can turn it sideways if I want. There's not really a right or a wrong way to print this, but for this demonstration I'm just going to do it this way on the table, and then you just want to clamp it down real good on this with these kind of hinge clamps here. And we have our system set up on these, they're called micro registration systems, so it'll make your life much easier. But go ahead and you want to go ahead and pull this thing over and attach it over there, and I'm going to get I think I'm going to go ahead and use some pliers, just because a lot of you might not have kind of the hand strength to do that. So you just want to go ahead and pull this over and loop it over the top of that. And if you do this, this will help you keep your screen upright, and you'll see how it works here in a second. So we just want to pull this one over, let that out, those there. Now, and then when we tip it up now, it's just going to stay up automatically with the pressure from those springs. And if it doesn't, then that means I might just need to tighten it up just a little bit, and I can do that by turning these guys one direction or the other, and that'll help tighten up my spring. So wrong way. So you want to go this direction to tighten these guys. Yeah. So now it stays, and you can tighten up the other side too if you want to, just to make sure that that's tight. But basically we're trying to stretch that spring out a little bit more so that it's so that it keeps this thing up. So alright, so there you go. So that's all set. We're ready to print now, and then we just need to position our paper. And so I think you can kind of see this underneath here. If I want my image to print on this piece of paper, I just kind of need to figure out where to put the paper so that it's all centered in there, right? And so you guys have these 11 by 15 pieces of paper for your final screen printing project. So you just kind of want to make sure that it's on there correctly and make sure that you get everything lined up the way you want it. And again, the more careful you can kind of be here, the better off you're going to be. So I'm really a big fan of tape. I love tape. I like to put it on everything and kind of keep it you know, close by. So I'm just going to put some little tape kind of edges here so I know where my paper goes. And then there are two methods for registration. I'm going to show you both of them. The first one is a pin registration system. And if you can kind of see this here, we have this black piece of mat board with the 3-hole punches that we put into our paper. So we 3-hole punch the paper. We did the exact same thing to this. And then we put these little pins in, these little metal pins. There's metal and plastic ones that we put in to kind of you know, fill up that hole. And these pins are actually really, really expensive. So if you ever see them floating around, please grab them and give them to me. They should stay in this thing, and we'll keep these registration sort of pin systems pinned up on the wall someplace so we know where they are all the time. But what I can do now is I can just take my piece of paper and I can kind of add the those pins, and I can kind of, like, you see how it all kind of lines up there that way, right? So now I can, so every time I put a piece of paper down, I just line it up with those pins and those the three holes, kind of keep it all in one spot, and I know that my paper is in exactly the precise spot. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up the way I wanted it, and then I'm just going to tape this down. So, you know, what you want to do is just put some tape down so that the registration matrix thing doesn't move around on you, right? So since that's stable, now I can put a piece of paper here, you know, pull it down, print it, lift it up, and put another piece of paper down on those pins. And this means that I know that every single time that I print, my paper is going to be in a precise place in the exact spot that it was before. So that's one way of doing it. The other way you can think about doing it is what I call the card system. So if we don't want to use the pin registrations, we can always use the cards. And the cards are basically just a 3-point registration system. So once I get my paper positioned, I can just put 2 cards here. And just, you know, again, got to be precise and exact here if you want it all to work right. And take 2 cards down on the edge of your paper. And this works best with like a really sharp, kind of clear razor cut piece of paper, right? It's not as easy. So now whenever I go to put my paper down, I can just stop it right there, and I know that it's going to hit in that spot. And then I can add a 3rd card, say down here. Right, and then every time I put my paper down, it goes into that spot. Print, take that paper out, put another piece of paper in there, make sure that the 3 edges line up. So either way, just make sure my paper always goes down in the same spot and the screen always hits it in the same spot at every stage. So this gets really, really important. I'm going to stick with the pin registrations system for now, and you guys can kind of experiment with which thing you want to try to use for keeping your stuff straight. So, all right, so I have all my paper punched. I have this all ready, so I'm just going to show you how to go ahead and print.